I want to go to Dana Bash. And she, of course, has been talking to sources. Dana, just kind of zooming out from like a 30,000-foot view on this, you know, Kristen Holmes, our colleague, reporting that a lot of this rhetoric and a lot of the themes he's hitting are familiar from his rallies. But this feels like it's on steroids. And we went through and fact-checked a number of things on immigration specifically. There's actually a great fact-check on CNN.com if anyone wants to check that out for themselves. But Dana, what are you hearing from your sources?
You know, I heard Priscilla talking about the fact that the Harris campaign and Kamala Harris herself, I mean, she said it at the one and only debate that she had with Donald Trump, have been saying, you've got to listen for yourself. You've got to hear what happens when Donald Trump speaks to his supporters. And this is, I think the way you just put it is perfect, Jessica. This is that on steroids. Donald Trump has always wanted to, quote unquote, play Madison Square Garden. That's what he's doing right now. But he's doing it as somebody who is continuing to stoke the fears, play on the anger, and just flat out lie over and over and over again in order to whip up people who he, first of all, needs to vote, but also people who just feel, obviously, that they are entertained by this kind of rhetoric. I mean, let's just be blunt about it. And you have an entire iconic arena, Madison Square Garden, that is filled with people there to listen to this kind of thing. I just want to give one example of something that fell flat. Now, this is not something that he said, but this is part of the opening acts. There was a comedian who said, and I know you have been talking about this in your coverage, Jess, about the comedian who completely denigrated all Puerto Ricans and the island of Puerto Rico. I mean, you are seeing cleanup by Republicans, or at least attempt at cleanup by Republicans who are relying on big portions of who have big portions of Puerto Rican voters who they rely on, like, for example, Rick Scott, Republican senator from Florida. He released tweeted something trying to separate himself, but suggested that it was a joke that didn't land. I don't see any evidence that the joke didn't land. I think that there was a lot of laughter, sadly, to that horrible, horrible joke. On the Democratic side, John Fetterman tweeted from the very important state of Pennsylvania that there are 500,000 Puerto Rican voters, 3/4 of whom are able to vote, and that's not going to land well with them. So, listen, I mean, I think that the most important thing to understand is that, as Kristen has been saying, as you have said, as we have told our viewers over and over again, this is not the kind of rhetoric that is new for him.
Right.
It is just amplified in a way, and it is darker and more intense, and for a lot of people, more frightening than we have seen, particularly because of where we are on the calendar.
Yeah, and on the calendar with just 9 days until election night in America. Dana Bash, it is always great to get your perspective on this. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
There are over 1 million Puerto Ricans who live in New York, where this rally was held. And perhaps most relevant to this presidential campaign, there are about 500,000 Puerto Ricans who live in Pennsylvania. They are American citizens. They vote. Perhaps that's why the Trump campaign did something that they almost never do. They quickly disavowed a statement that was widely perceived as offensive. Quote, "This joke does not reflect the views of President Trump or the campaign," end quote, a spokeswoman told CNN. The Florida Senator Rick Scott, a Republican running for re-election, wrote this on X, quote, "This joke bombed for a reason. It's not funny and not true. Puerto Ricans are amazing people and amazing Americans." There are about 1.1 million of them in Florida who could vote for or against Scott. Famous Puerto Ricans, Bad Bunny, J-Lo, Ricky Martin, millions of social media followers among them, quickly posted pro-Harris videos as Harris herself had campaigned at a Puerto Rican restaurant earlier in the day. And here was her running mate, Tim Walz, with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
I mean, it's like super upsetting. Obviously, it's super upsetting to me. My family is from Puerto Rico. I'm Puerto Rican. I need people to understand that when you have some a-hole calling Puerto Rico floating garbage, know that that's what they think about you.
There are hundreds of thousands of Puerto Ricans across in battleground states that need to send them a message on this.
I want them to
You got to vote.
It's worth noting that while we showed you that joke about the pile of garbage that comedian made, he also said something else about Latino voters that I can't play because I know a lot of you are probably at the breakfast table with your little kids, and if we played it, you'd have to shut us off because it was so incredibly crude that it's a family program and we're just not going to do it. Joining us now to talk about all of this, David Frum, staff writer at The Atlantic, Megan Hayes, former director of message planning at the Biden White House, and Matt Gorman, former senior advisor to Tim Scott's presidential campaign. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here. So obviously the comment that this comedian made about Puerto Rico is something that Matt, we don't see the Trump campaign backpedal very often.
No.
But they are backpedaling from this.
I took note of that. Absolutely. And I think I'm glad they did. And you saw a lot of Republicans too. Even Nick Esposito, who's a congressman from around that area, right outside, I believe, Long Island or Westchester, do the same sort of thing, who's Puerto Rican too. And I think broadly, this is why comedians and politics do not mix. It's not the same incentive structure. Like I've seen this so many times over the years, and this is why you have to be so careful with this sort of thing. Comedians want laughs, politicians want votes. That's not usually in alignment in a lot of respects, and you saw why in this sort of thing. And you know, if you're Trump's campaign, it unfortunately overshadowed a lot of this for them as they go into this last week.
Yeah, no, it's a problem for the campaign because this joke of rage, contempt, and hate terribly distracted from the campaign's message of rage, contempt, and hate. No, this is ridiculous. This is the message. This has always been the message. Rage, contempt, hate. Police women, expel people who are different from you, be angry at the world, denounce criminals from the mouth of a convicted criminal himself. That's the message. There's not some other Trump campaign that is about accelerating depreciation rates or about accelerating economic growth. Their economic ideas are moronic and antisocial. Their immigration message is completely trips over its own feet. This is what they are. And so I think this rally was a true public service. Show America what is the choice. That's it. What you saw there was not a distraction. It was the truth.
I mean, I will say when I watched the pieces of this rally last night and again coming in this morning, I mean, there's a reason I wrote at the top that this choice could not be more stark, honestly. I mean, and you could see it. And David is correct that this is what, I mean, the Trump team is not distancing itself from all the other things that were said at the rally because they believe it.
But also, it's working, right? Like 48% of the people are voting for Donald Trump. They are neck and neck in the polls. So clearly their message is working. I'm hopeful that comments like this about Puerto Rico will change people's minds that are Puerto Rican in some of these battleground states. They'll start to realize maybe this isn't who they want to vote for if that's where they were going to go, or it will get people to stay home. But clearly there is a message that is working and resonating, and he has capitalized on that, which is really, really uncomfortable and I think disconcerting for most Americans.
Megan, can I ask you one thing that has been standing out to me about, Barack Obama, former President Obama, has been out on the campaign trail, and we highlighted this on the show on Friday. He keeps saying, I don't understand how people could think, like people want change. I don't understand how they could think that Donald Trump could be the change that could help them. That sort of hit my ears like, we've had a lot of years of this, and you're right. Like, there are a lot of people to whom that this appeals. I mean, what is it that Democrats are not understanding?
We are living in two different realities here, and I think that people are getting their news from certain sources and they live in that reality, and then other people live in a different reality. And I think that, I mean, there was a quote in the New York Times where someone was saying, we can't even help people in our own country. Why would we help immigrants? And it's like, Donald Trump's not going to help those people either. So like, what is the disconnect here? And I mean, I don't understand what people's discontent with the process is.
I saw put very succinctly online late last night. It was a video and a television host put it, and I think a lot of Democrats wrongly assume that Trump voters are like Trump in attitude and that sort of thing, and that's not the case. And so I think that is where they kind of get a little bit kind of twisted a little bit.